Most people, when a relationship ends, go through a predictable sequence: grief, anger, numbness. Then, eventually, the slow, uncomfortable work of moving on. It doesn't feel good. None of it feels good. But it's what healthy people do, because the alternative, the thing some people choose instead of grief, is so much more destructive than the pain they're trying to avoid. Nadia Osei had no idea that the alternative was what was happening to her. For 3 years, she lived her life the way you do when you believe you've closed a chapter. She built new routines. She made new friends. She redecorated her apartment. She started running. She took a promotion at work that required her to move to a new city. She started dating again, carefully and slowly, the way people do when they've been hurt before and want to be sure they're ready. She felt, for the most part, like herself again. What she didn't know was that every step she took, every new city, every new friend, every new piece of her rebuilt life, was being watched, cataloged, followed, by someone she hadn't spoken to in 3 years. Someone who had never truly left. And she wouldn't find out until the night a stranger sent her a message that made absolutely no sense. Until it did. Nadia and Marcus had dated for 4 years. They met the way a lot of people met in their late 20s, through overlapping friend groups, at a birthday dinner where they ended up seated next to each other by accident and talked until the restaurant staff started giving them pointed looks. He was funny in a way that surprised her. She was direct in a way that surprised him. By the end of the night, they had exchanged numbers. By the end of the month, they were seeing each other every weekend. By the end of the year, they had moved in together into a 2-bedroom apartment in Philadelphia that they both loved and that neither of them wanted to leave when things eventually fell apart. And things did fall apart. Not violently. Not dramatically. The way it actually happens for a lot of couples, slowly, quietly, like air leaking out of something that was never quite airtight to begin with. The arguments became more frequent and less resolvable. The silences got longer and less comfortable. There was a stretch of about 6 months where Nadia felt like she was living with a roommate who resented her, and another stretch where Marcus later said he felt like he was disappearing inside the relationship and couldn't explain why. The breakup happened on a Saturday in March. It was mutual in the way that breakups are sometimes mutual, meaning both people could see that it was coming, but one person had been ready longer than the other. Marcus was not the one who was ready. He said all the right things. He agreed it was time. He helped arrange who would take what from the apartment. He was calm and adult and reasonable, and Nadia was grateful for that, and she told him so. What she didn't see, because there was no way to see it yet, was what was happening behind his eyes during that conversation. Nadia moved to a smaller apartment on the other side of the city. She changed her Instagram to private. She unfollowed Marcus on everything, not out of hostility, but because she had been through a breakup before, and she knew that watching someone else move on when you aren't ready to is a specific kind of self-inflicted torture that serves nobody. She thought Marcus would do the same. He didn't. 6 weeks after the breakup, Marcus created a new Instagram account. The name on the account was Jordan Mills. The profile photo was a slightly blurry picture of a man's jaw and collarbone. Attractive, anonymous, plausibly real. The bio said, photographer, coffee addict, Philadelphia. He sent Nadia a follow request. She accepted it without thinking twice. Private accounts get follow requests all the time. Jordan Mills looked like the kind of low-key account that belonged to a friend of a friend. She didn't recognize the photo. She had no reason to. That was the beginning. Over the following weeks, Jordan Mills became a fixture in Nadia's online life in the way that minor acquaintances do. He liked her posts occasionally. Not every single one. That would have been too obvious. Just enough to register as present. He left a comment once, something brief and complimentary on a photo of her at a friend's rooftop birthday party. She replied with a laughing emoji. She had no idea she was talking to Marcus. Over the following months, Jordan Mills slowly escalated. He started messaging her, casually at first, responding to a story she posted about a restaurant she'd visited, asking if it was good. She replied. He replied back. The conversation lasted 3 or 4 exchanges and then faded, the way online small talk does. But Marcus was learning things. He was learning where she was eating, who she was with, what parts of the city she was spending time in. When she posted about her job, he learned the name of the company she'd mentioned getting an offer from. When she posted about a friend's wedding she was attending, he knew the city, the date, the general location. He was building a map of her life. A detailed, real-time map. And she was handing him the information freely, because as far as she knew, Jordan Mills was nobody. The promotion Nadia accepted was in Chicago. She was excited about it in the specific way that you're excited about something when you're ready for a change, but also terrified of it. She spent 2 weeks packing. She posted a few photos of the moving process. She said goodbye to Philadelphia with a dinner at her favorite restaurant and an Instagram story that showed the skyline from a car window, captioned simply, "Next chapter." Jordan Mills liked the story within 4 minutes. Marcus, in his apartment across the city, watched Nadia's life move to Chicago in real time. He tracked her new neighborhood based on the background of her photos. He identified her gym from a check-in sticker she used once in a story. He knew the name of the coffee shop she started going to every morning because she posted a photo of her order with the shop's tagged location visible in the caption. He created a second account. This one was for a different platform, a different name, a different set of borrowed photos. This persona, a woman named Celia, reached out to Nadia on a platform where Nadia was less careful, where her account was still public, and where she talked more openly about her daily life. Celia became an online friend. The kind of low-level internet friendship that exists in comment sections and occasional DMs. Nadia didn't think twice about it. She had online friends. Lots of people did. Marcus now had 2 windows into her life. Here is where the story becomes something other than sad. Because for a long time, what Marcus was doing felt, at least to him, like something he could rationalize. He told himself he just wanted to know she was okay. He told himself it was harmless. He told himself he wasn't doing anything with the information, just collecting it, just watching, just staying close to something he couldn't let go of. He had never stopped loving her. He genuinely believed that. And in his mind, love had become confused with surveillance in a way he probably couldn't have articulated even if someone had asked him to. But then something changed. Nadia started dating someone. His name was Theo. He appeared in her posts gradually, the way new relationships do. First as an unnamed presence in a group photo, then as a tag name in a caption, then eventually as a face, a person, someone who was clearly becoming part of her life. Nadia hadn't announced anything. She wasn't the kind of person who made declarations about her relationships online. But Marcus was watching closely enough to see the progression in real time, in a way that her actual followers never would have noticed. And when he saw it, something shifted. The watching became something else. He started reaching out more frequently through Jordan Mills. The messages became slightly more personal. He asked questions about her life, her work, her new city. Always careful to keep it within the range of normal online conversation. But he was testing, always testing, to see how much she would share. And Nadia, who had no reason to be suspicious of a harmless Instagram acquaintance, answered honestly. She mentioned Theo, not by name, but she mentioned being happy. She mentioned feeling settled in Chicago. She mentioned, in one message, that she finally felt like she was where she was supposed to be. Marcus read that message at 2 in the morning and sat with it for a long time. The following week, he created a third account. This one was different. This one wasn't designed to make friends with Nadia. This one was designed to make contact with the people around her, her Chicago friends, her coworkers she'd mentioned by name in posts, anyone in her orbit who might, if approached the right way, share information about her life. He found Nadia's new friend group through tagged photos. He followed them. He engaged with their content. He built a presence in the edges of their online lives. He was no longer just watching. He was infiltrating. The message that changed everything came from a woman named Priya. Priya was someone Nadia had met at her new company and immediately liked. They had become genuine friends, the kind of quick, intense friendship that sometimes happens between women in new cities who are both a little lonely and a little relieved to find each other. Nadia had mentioned her online a few times. She appeared in photos. She was visible. Marcus had followed Priya. He had, over several weeks, built enough of a presence in her comment sections that Priya recognized his username as a familiar face in her feed. He messaged her once, asking about a restaurant she'd posted about. She replied. He asked a follow-up question. She replied again. And then, one evening, trying to be friendly in the way that people sometimes are with low-stakes internet acquaintances, Priya mentioned the conversation to Nadia. She said something like, "Oh, that guy Jordan Mills who follows both of us asked about that Thai place you and I went to last week." Nadia paused. She asked Priya what account name. Priya showed her the profile. And Nadia looked at Jordan Mills' account. the one she had been accepting messages from for over 2.5 years, and felt something cold move through her. Because she looked at the followers list, and she recognized almost every single person on it. They were all people connected to her. She didn't say anything to Priya in the moment. She kept her voice calm and her face neutral, and she said something about recognizing the account from somewhere. She'd figure it out. Don't worry about it. Then she went home and sat down and started going through every interaction she had ever had with Jordan Mills. Every like post, every comment, every DM. She cross-referenced the dates with major events in her life. The move to Chicago, the new job, the first time she'd mentioned Theo, the weekend she'd been out of town for a friend's bachelorette party. Every single time Jordan Mills had interacted with her content, it corresponded to something visible and specific happening in her life. She felt sick. She opened the profile photo, the blurry jaw and collarbone she had never thought twice about, and she ran it through a reverse image search tool she'd read about once in an article about online safety. The photo was stolen from a real person's public LinkedIn profile. A man named Daniel Everett who lived in Austin, Texas, and worked in logistics, and had absolutely no idea his face had been used to construct a fake identity. Nadia sat with that information for a long time, and then she thought about something she hadn't thought about. 3 years. She thought about Marcus. She didn't have proof yet, but she had instinct, and her instinct was loud and specific and pointing in one direction. She called a friend who worked in cybersecurity. His name was Ben, and he was the kind of person who found this sort of thing professionally fascinating and personally infuriating. She told him everything. He asked her to send him screenshots of every interaction with the Jordan Mills account and the Celia account, because yes, she had gone back and found Celia too, once she started looking with different eyes. Ben spent 2 days looking into it. What he found was the first real, concrete piece of evidence. The Jordan Mills account and the Celia account had both, at different points, been logged into from the same IP address. An IP address that, when traced through publicly available tools, resolved to a residential location in Philadelphia, the same city Nadia had lived in with Marcus. Ben sent her the information in a message that said, simply, "You were right." This is the moment in the story where a lot of people would have made a different choice than Nadia did. A lot of people would have confronted Marcus directly, would have sent him a message, would have called him out publicly, or blocked him, or called his friends, or done any number of things driven by the shock and fury of discovering that someone had been watching them for 3 years. Nadia did none of those things, because Ben had told her something important before she could decide how to react. He said, what Marcus had done almost certainly crossed legal lines. Digital stalking, harassment, impersonation, unauthorized access to personal information. This wasn't just a strange and upsetting situation. This was potentially criminal conduct. And if she contacted Marcus directly, she risked giving him the opportunity to delete everything. So instead, she did something much harder. She waited. She filed a report with the Chicago Police Department's Cybercrime Unit. She provided everything: the screenshots, Ben's IP trace analysis, the stolen profile photo, the timeline of every interaction across every fake account. She was calm and thorough in the way that people are when they have converted pure terror into pure focus. The detective who handled her case was a woman named Santos who had worked cybercrime for 6 years and who, when Nadia finished explaining the situation, said, "This is more organized than most of what we see." That sentence stayed with Nadia for days. More organized than most. 3 years of fake accounts and stolen photographs and methodical infiltration of her social network, and the detective's professional assessment was that it was organized. The investigation that followed took 11 weeks. During those 11 weeks, Nadia continued her life exactly as she had before: the coffee shop, the gym, the work, Theo, Priya, all of it. She didn't change her online behavior in any visible way. She didn't block the accounts. She didn't post anything that indicated she knew, because now she knew that Jordan Mills was still watching, and she wanted him to keep watching, right up until the moment he couldn't anymore. The warrant came through on a Tuesday. The IP address Ben had traced was confirmed through the investigation to belong to an internet service account registered in Marcus's name at his Philadelphia apartment. The accounts, Jordan Mills, Celia, and 2 additional accounts Nadia hadn't even identified yet, which the investigators found through cross-referencing, were all tied to the same digital fingerprints. The same device, the same location, the same person, Marcus had been careful in some ways. He had been sloppy in others. He had used a VPN inconsistently, meaning there were long stretches where the activity was completely traceable. He had borrowed photos without understanding how reverse image searches worked. He had followed people connected to Nadia without considering that. The pattern would become visible to anyone who looked at his followers list carefully enough. He had underestimated her. That was his fundamental, irreparable mistake. He had spent 3 years building an elaborate architecture of surveillance and deception, and the entire structure was built on the assumption that Nadia would never look directly at it, that she would never have a reason to, that she would just continue living her life, unknowingly observed, unknowingly tracked, while he watched from behind glass and told himself it wasn't hurting anyone. But she had looked, and it had all come down. Marcus was charged in Philadelphia and cooperated with the Chicago investigation. The charges included criminal impersonation, cyberstalking, and harassment. Because the conduct had occurred across state lines, the activity in Philadelphia directed at a victim in multiple cities including Chicago, federal statutes were also reviewed during the investigation, which added a layer of gravity to the proceedings that his attorney clearly had not anticipated. He didn't deny it. That was the part that hit Nadia hardest when she heard about it from Detective Santos. He didn't try to claim the accounts weren't his. He didn't construct an alibi. He sat down, when confronted with the evidence, and he admitted to everything. He admitted to creating Jordan Mills 6 weeks after the breakup. He admitted to creating Celia 8 months later when he felt Jordan Mills wasn't giving him enough information. He admitted to creating the 2 additional accounts the investigators had found. He admitted to tracking her move to Chicago, identifying her neighborhood, her gym, her coffee shop. And when they asked him why, he said something that Santos relayed to Nadia, and that Nadia later said she turned over in her mind for a very long time. He said he had told himself, every single day for 3 years, that he was going to stop tomorrow. The legal consequences took shape over the following months. Marcus entered into a plea agreement that involved a restraining order, mandatory counseling, supervised probation, and a formal record that would follow him professionally and personally for years. The specific terms of the agreement were sealed, but the existence of the record was not. Nadia gave a victim impact statement. She spent 3 weeks writing it. She went through 14 drafts. She read it aloud to Priya the night before she submitted it, and Priya held her hand through most of it and didn't say anything, which was exactly right. The statement wasn't angry. That surprised people who knew her, including herself. It wasn't a recounting of the harm, though the harm was real and documented. It was something more precise than that. It was a description of what it feels like to discover that the life you believed you were building freely, the new city, the new friends, the new relationship, the new version of yourself, had been observed without your knowledge or consent by someone who had decided your autonomy wasn't real. She wrote, "For 3 years I was watched by someone who believed his feelings about me were more real than my right to live without him. I want him to understand that the loneliness he felt is human and understandable. What he did with that loneliness is not. There is a detail in this story that didn't come out publicly until much later, and when it did, it reframed everything. When investigators went through the full archive of Marcus's activity across all 4 accounts, they found something that none of them had expected. They found that roughly 4 months before Priya accidentally mentioned Jordan Mills to Nadia, 4 months before the whole thing began to unravel, Marcus had drafted a message on the Jordan Mills account. A real message, using his real name, addressed to Nadia. It was never sent. It sat in the drafts folder of the account, unsent, for 4 months. The message said, "I know this isn't a good way to reach out. I know I should have moved on. I don't really know why I haven't. I'm sorry for whatever this was. I hope you're actually happy." He had written it. He hadn't sent it. And he had kept watching anyway. Detective Santos told Nadia about the draft message at the end of one of their final meetings. Nadia sat with it for a long moment, and then she said something that Santos remembered well enough to mention later. She said, "That's the saddest part of all of this. Not that he watched, that he almost stopped and didn't. Nadia still lives in Chicago. She and Theo are still together. She and Priya are still close. She goes to the same coffee shop every morning. She runs. She got another promotion. She changed her social media settings, not out of fear, but out of a new and deliberate understanding of what she chooses to share and with whom and why. She started talking publicly about digital safety after a journalist reached out following the court proceedings. Not about Marcus specifically, but about the broader reality of what online surveillance looks like when it's dressed up as harmless curiosity. About how fake accounts don't always look like bots or scammers. About how sometimes they look like low-key internet acquaintances who like your posts occasionally and remember what you told them. She said in one interview, "I trusted my own life with a stranger I'd accepted a follow request from. And I think a lot of people do that. I'm not ashamed that I did. But I want people to know that the patterns are visible if you look. They're always there." The interview was shared widely. The comment sections were full of people who had, in reading it, suddenly started thinking differently about the accounts following them that they'd never really looked at twice. That's the thing about this kind of betrayal that goes beyond the personal. It holds up a mirror. Not to one relationship or one breakup or one man who couldn't let go. It holds up a mirror to the way all of us have built our lives in spaces that feel private but aren't. The way we share ourselves in pieces, across platforms, assuming good faith from everyone watching. The way we have been taught that being open online is normal and healthy, without ever being taught that openness has an audience, and that audiences aren't always who they appear to be. Marcus completed his mandated counseling. He did not reach out to Nadia again. By every available measure, he went quiet in exactly the way he had refused to go quiet for 3 years. Whether he finally found a way to grieve the relationship the way he should have from the beginning, Nadia doesn't know. She doesn't spend much time thinking about it. That part of the story doesn't belong to her anymore, and she decided a long time ago that she wasn't going to carry it. What she carries instead is something harder to name but easier to live with. The knowledge that she caught it, that she looked directly at the thing that was trying to stay invisible, that she built the case quietly, carefully, without panic, and she let the truth do what truth does when you give it enough room. She moved on from Marcus once, cleanly and honestly, and then, 3 years later, she moved on from him again. The second time felt more final. The second time, it actually was. There's a version of this story that ends with the legal consequences and wraps everything neatly in the language of justice. Charges filed, plea entered, restraining order in place, closed chapter. But the version that matters, the one Nadia talks about when she talks about this, ends differently. It ends on a Tuesday morning in Chicago, at the coffee shop she identified herself, that she chose herself, in the life she built herself. She's at a table by the window. She's got her laptop open. She's got a meeting in an hour. Theo texted her this morning. Priya is coming over for dinner. She has not changed who she is. She has not become smaller or more guarded or less willing to trust. She has become, if anything, more precise about what trust means and who gets to earn it. She posts a photo from the window. The morning light on a ceramic cup. No caption, just the image. And this time, when someone likes it, she knows exactly who they are. That's not a small thing. That's everything.